There are several different kinds of trusts. The most common type of trust is the revocable living trust, and that allows you to pass assets to your family or friends outside of the probate process. Other types of trusts have specific purposes. If you have a child, for instance, with special needs that receives, Medicaid or Social Security benefits, then you might want to consider a special needs trust. I think the most important part is understanding exactly what you're trying to accomplish by establishing a trust, and that will allow us to choose the appropriate tool. One of the questions I get a lot is what's the difference between a living will and a trust? I think that the confusion comes from the fact that oftentimes we have a living will and a living trust. A living will is a healthcare document, sometimes called an advance directive, and that provides instructions for end of life. A trust has to do more with the management of your physical assets or financial assets. Another question I get a lot is whether it's better to have a will or a trust. And I think this is a highly personal question. It really depends on your circumstances. It depends on your assets. It depends on your goals. And so one of the things that I do, one of the things that we work very hard on in our initial consultations, in our strategy sessions, is to determine which one is actually better for your circumstances. The biggest disadvantage of a trust might be the fact that there tends to be some upfront cost. It's more expensive to establish a trust than it is to have a will drafted. And so for some people, the benefits of a trust are not worth the additional upfront cost. Theoretically, it's possible to create your own trust. There are online tools that will create trusts for you. However, there are risks associated with that. If a trust fails, then you've wasted a lot of time and money. I think it's really important to consult with an attorney. I have been focused on trusts and estate planning as my primary area of law practice now for going on 4 years. And so since then I've helped dozens of families create trusts of various types. I think that one of the things that a lot of people think is, again, that you have to be very, very wealthy in order to benefit from a trust. And that's simply not the case. The revocable living trust is a very powerful instrument. It offers a great deal of flexibility in terms of what it can accomplish. It's also an important tool that can help create, multi-generational wealth, help build wealth, even if the individual creating the trust is not particularly wealthy. I think our clients hire us to be their representation for a wide variety of reasons, but the biggest one, I think, is authenticity. We limit the number of clients we take in on a monthly basis because we want to spend the adequate amount of time with each client to make sure that we really understand you, we understand your circumstances, and we're not shipping out the same set of documents for every client, but it's highly personalized. The other thing that I think a lot of clients really enjoy is the fact that we're very educationally focused. We want you as a client to be empowered to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. I don't adopt a prescriptive approach. I'm not here to tell you what you need. I'm here to help you understand exactly what the options are to achieve the goals that you have. I think our current and past clients would both agree that they had an exemplary experience. I think that they would genuinely say that they were met with caring and compassion, that they were heard and listened to, and they achieved exemplary results. Client communication is the most important thing, in my opinion. And that's why I work very hard to keep the channels of communication open. My goal is to return an email inquiry within 24 hours. I try very hard to return telephone calls the same day that I receive them because I want you to know that I am listening to what you're saying, I'm working on your case, and I'm sensitive to your concerns. We are a very small firm, and we're a small firm by design. When I was in law school, I worked for a very, very small law firm. And my boss had been in the practice of law for longer than I've been alive. And so she had developed these rich relationships with clients, sometimes going across multiple generations, 2 and 3 generations of family members. And I was really blown away by the fact that she was able to do that. And it wasn't just a transaction, it wasn't a name or a file or a dollar amount. The goal when I established this firm was to recreate that experience and to be able to develop those deep, meaningful relationships with clients. So I will not hand your case off to another lawyer because I'm the only lawyer here. I feel really strongly about developing that relationship between the attorney and the client. Now, that being said, I don't hesitate to say if I feel like we're not a good match, if it's not a type of matter that I feel totally comfortable handling, or I feel like you may benefit from another lawyer better, I will certainly refer you to another lawyer. But once we've signed the agreement, I'm going to be doing the work on your case. The initial case consultation in regard to a trust is going to begin with a conversation about what a trust does and why a trust might be right for you. We're going to talk about your family, we're going to talk about your goals, we're going to talk about your assets, we're going to talk about the implications of not having a trust. And basically, after that conversation, you'll be empowered to decide whether a trust is the right instrument for you or not.